What's up, everyone? Going to break down a trade from a recent setup we took. So first and foremost, I like to look at the higher time frames. That way I can get a bigger picture and also see the most important liquidity points. So you have this weekly low that I saw that was in place, and also the last 3 weeks created a gap, a fair value gap right here. So being that I was looking for bullish price action, especially that S&P 500 and NASDAQ were moving higher, and also you see these points are relatively equal, I was anticipating that we might see some bullish price action on Dow. Also keeping in mind it's a CPI week, so that may lead to price action that continues in one singular direction. So I already have this weekly liquidity point marked out, and any breach under there is also into the fair value gap. So on the daily time frame, you can also see this very clear as well. This is the low of the last 3 days. So the trading day was on Monday. So Friday, Thursday, and Wednesday of the previous week, this is the low of the last 3 days, which we know is normally a very important liquidity point. So dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, we had a gap. So that gap immediately broke the weekly low of last week. And heading into New York session, we have a 4-hour candle that's closing back inside the range. So I was looking for bullish price action and looking at the gap that potentially be filled here. Also going to go ahead and mark out the previous session highs. So this is the high of the previous afternoon session, and then you also have the high of the previous day as well. So these would actually be the targets for the bullish setup. So going into 8 o'clock, personally I like to see a 15-minute fair value gap and also the price move into some form of discount. So also on the 15-minute time frame, you can see that these are also, liquidity is resting under here, and this is also where our fair value gap lies. So I was waiting for price to move back into this fair value gap at the very least, and you also see this is an order block as well. So was looking for price to breach the low of 7 a.m. and move back into this zone. So just using the replay tool at 8:15, it wasn't moving back into this zone, and I knew that liquidity would be going into the market at 8:30, so we wait. So after 8:30, price starts to move back down into the zone, and we know that there's another liquidity injection coming at 9:30. At market open, the price is likely going to shoot in a singular direction. So going into 9 o'clock, we actually see our criteria being satisfied. It breached the low of 7 a.m. It actually comes back into this fair value gap, hits the order block, and also these lows. So liquidity is being grabbed essentially. And also if we go to the lower time frame, like the 5-minute time frame, we can actually start to see some volume discrepancies, or TDI basically. So you can see the low over here is here on the chart. So this low on the chart is higher than this low, just barely, but on the TDI, this low is much higher than this low. So this low is lower than this low on the TDI, but higher than this low on the chart. So that's the discrepancy. So was looking for it to set up going into 9:30. So it's moving into 9:20, and a fair value gap is forming here. So now we have the fair value gap. It actually closed right inside the range. It's also in the 15-minute fair value gap right before the 9:30 open. So this is actually where we entered around 9:17 a.m. Had a fairly wide stop loss, about a 40-point stop loss actually, but really the stop could have been right here for a better risk to reward. But nonetheless, that's when the trade started moving pretty immediately in our direction. As the trade moved up, we actually moved our stop. So at about this point, look to the lower time frame, was patient, right? Once it moved back up here at this point, stop loss was moved under this low, right? Let's go back to the 5-minute. Price moved higher. So that validated that 5-minute leg, moved up again, moved the stop loss under this low. And at this point, personally, I took some partial profits right here and let some of the other portions of the trade run to see if it would just continue to run again, being that it's CPI week. So took a good portion of my trade off around here, about half the trade, and then had the stop trailed and eventually just came back and stopped me out. So that was the trade of the week.